الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا
After reciting the
الضالين.
Tashahhud, Ta'awuz and Surah Al-Fatiha, Hazrat Frequency the fifth Ayyad Allah Ta'ala Minister these stated,
कल 20 फरवरी थी. ये दिन जमात में पेशगोई मुस्लिम मौत के हवाले से जाना जाता है.
yesterday was 20th of February, and within the Jamaat, this day is known as the day of the prophecy of Muslim Ma'ud, i.e. the promised reformer.
जलसे भी होते हैं.
Around this date, gatherings are held in the Jamaat to commemorate the prophecy of Muslim Ma'ud.
एक लंबी पेशगोई है जिसमें एक बेटी
This is a lengthy prophecy of the promised Messiah alayhi salam,
खसूसियात का जिक्र है.
in which the birth of a son and his characteristics are outlined.
इसको इश्तिहार की सूरत में शाया किया गया.
This was published in the form of an announcement on 20th of February
लड़के की
1886.
के बारे में
In this prophecy,
अल्फाज का एक हिस्सा इस
the
तरह से
revealed words in relation to some characteristics of this son are as follows. He will be extremely intelligent and understanding.
पुर किया जाएगा.
It further says, he will be filled with secular and spiritual knowledge.
इसके मुताबिक
In accordance with this, Allah the Almighty
सल्लल्लाहु को
blessed the promised Messiah alayhi salam with a son
जो इन खसूसियात का हामिल था
who possessed these characteristics, and his name
बशीरुद्दीन महमूद अहमद था.
was Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad.
मुस्लिम मौत भी कहा जाता है. जो बच्चे
He is also referred to as
जमात की
Muslih
तारीख से
Ma'ud.
वाकिफ रखते हैं, बड़े तो रखते ही हैं.
Even children
इससे
of the
बखूबी
Jamaat
आगाह हैं.
who are familiar with the history of the
अखबार
Jamaat,
में, खुदाम में हर
since
जगह
adults are generally more acquainted with it, are very well aware of
जैसा
this
कि
prophecy.
पेशगोई के अल्फाज हैं
Gatherings are held amongst the Atfal and the
वो
Qudam.
लड़का अलूम ज़ाहिरी व बातिनी से पुर किया जाएगा.
As it is stated in the prophecy that the boy will be filled with secular and spiritual knowledge.
खुद उनको ज़हानत
Allah the
को,
Almighty
ज़हानत को
personally
जिला बख्शा
illumined his mind
और उलूम
and
से
filled
पुर
it
किया.
with knowledge.
दुनियावी लिहाज से
In his secular education,
शायद
he
पढ़ाई
merely reached the primary level,
ये भी नहीं थी.
or perhaps not even that.
वहाँ स्कूल जाते रहे
Indeed, he attended school.
लेकिन इम्तिहानों में आपने
However, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiyallahu anhu has written himself
कभी पास
that he never passed his exams.
मजमूनों में बहुत कमज़ोर थे दुनियावी.
He was very weak in secular subjects.
अल्लाह ताला ने आपसे इल्मी और दीनी
However,
और इंतज़ामी
Allah the Almighty
काम ऐसे
enabled
ऐसे
him
करवाए
to
हैं
perform such intellectual,
बड़े
religious,
लिखे भी
and administrative
आपके
tasks
सामने
that even the most learned appear to be school children in comparison.
और आपका 52 साल दौरे खिलाफत इसका मुंह बोलता सबूत है.
His khilafat, which spanned 52 years, is a living proof of
मौजूदात
this.
पर बेशुमार तकारीर की
He delivered countless speeches and penned countless articles
दीनी
on
और
numerous
कुरानी उलूम
secular
की तो
topics.
कोई इंतहा ही नहीं है.
There is no end to his knowledge of
दुनियावी
religion and the Holy
मौजूदात
Quran.
पर भी मुल्की सियासत,
He also delivered numerous
इस्लामी
speeches
सियासत
and penned countless articles on secular topics and national and international politics.
तारीखी हवाले से गैर
His
मामूली
articles and
मयार के
speeches on
उलमा ने
history were of the highest
तकारीर की.
standard.
इक्तिसादी अमूर
He also analyzed
और दुनिया के
economic
मुख्तलिफ
affairs
निज़ामों,
and
सोशलिज्म,
spoke about various
कम्युनिज्म,
systems across the world, such as socialism, communism, and capitalism.
इनका तजज़िया किया और एक तकरीर की, बाद में किताबी सूरत में भी छप.
He also delivered a speech on this, which was later published in the form of a book. This is available among the literature of the Jamaat.
अस्करी मामलात
He even discussed about matters relating to military and warfare, science, and other academic topics in such a manner that it leaves a person astounded. He delivered many speeches to non-Muslims who were compelled to praise his depth of understanding and knowledge. These speeches and articles span thousands of pages. It is impossible to detail them in such a short time. As a matter of fact, it is even impossible to merely introduce them. At present, I will mention only a few as an example to serve as a basic introduction. Topics such as the economic system of Islam, the New World Order, and the outset of dissension in Islam are frequently discussed in the Jamaat. However, I will introduce some other topics which people are generally not acquainted with. Hazrat Muslim gave advice and spoke about the future of Turkey and the duties of Muslims in 1919, i.e. in the early days of his Khilafat. The summary or introduction to this is that whilst benefiting from every occasion to unite the nation, Hazrat Muslim radiallahu anhu gave extremely wise advice and wrote this book on 18th September 1919 at a time when the Turkish government was in peril. In order to unite and gather the Muslims of differing views, he gave the guiding principle: in my view, the foundation of this gathering should solely be a meeting was taking place regarding the Turkish government, that removing a government that claims to be Muslim or diminishing it to the status of a state is an act that every sect calling itself Muslims disapproves of and even finds unpalatable to consider. Furthermore, he also stated, regarding the Turkish Empire and the Islamic center of Hijaz, his guidance is as follows: the national pride of the Arabs has come to life, and their desire for independence has awakened. After 1300 years, they have once again become masters over their homeland and have proved their right to govern through their administrative skills and a sense of justice and equity. No new suggestions in this regard will be successful, nor should any sensible person entertain such ideas. He also gave the following advice for the betterment of Turkey, saying, mere gatherings and lectures will not suffice, nor will collecting money to publish advertisements and tracts. Rather, a systematic effort must be made across all countries of the world to achieve this objective. This is an era of knowledge. He stated that this is an age of intellect, and people demand evidence for everything. Therefore, to accomplish this difficult task, proper organization and planning are essential. Engaging in futile activities is not the way of the wise. This is something the Muslims must reflect upon even today. At that time, it was only a matter concerning the Turkish government. Today, more than ever before, the Muslim world and the Arab world must recognize that slogans and meetings alone will not be enough. Practical steps must be taken. While explaining the reason behind their hostility and prejudice against the Turks and Islam, he stated, misconceptions about Islam have been instilled in their hearts, i.e. in the hearts of opponents of Islam, for generations, that they do not consider it to be like other religions. Rather, they view it as a belief system that turns human beings into animals and into depraved beasts for that matter. They do not run away from any religion aside from Islam, They merely consider them detestable, but it is only Islam which they fear, i.e. the opponents of Islam, and see its progress as not only an impediment to their culture and way of life, but also as something fatal for humanity. Nowadays, this narrative is being pushed even more forcefully. In every country, right-wing groups and others are running major campaigns against Islam and Muslims. To change the situation, he provided the following guidance. It is for the Muslims to repent and turn back to God Almighty, to understand Islam and come to recognize its essential truths and make them known to others so as to bring to an end the hardships that afflict them. If they have not yet propagated their faith nor obeyed the commandments of God to spread these unparalleled teachings throughout the world, this is what practically happened. What Islam did they display? They ought to act now for the sake of their own survival. If they wish to live, they must act now, which is conditional on the propagation of Islam. Thus, Muslims must adopt this very same rule. Otherwise, the anti-Islamic world will begin surrounding the Muslim countries. It is doing this even now. Then an opportunity arose at the All Parties Conference. For this program, he gave guidance by the name of a speech called An Observation. This pamphlet was written by Hazrat Muslim on the 13th of July, 1925, in order to present it at the gathering of the All India Muslim Parties Conference. The organizers of the conference desired that the head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community attend in person and express his views. Hazrat Muslim Maud wrote in response saying, I myself am unable to attend, but I shall present my opinions through my representative. In this pamphlet, Hazrat Muslim Maud first stated the religious and political definitions of Islam. He stated that Islam firstly has a religious definition, regarding which every person has a right to define as they see fit. Secondly, there is a political definition of Islam. In the political sphere, who will be viewed as Muslims can only be answered by Hindus, Christians and Sikhs who have interacted with Muslims on a political level. This is because if the followers of one Muslim sect consider themselves to be Muslims, even if other sects consider them to be non-Muslims, when the Hindus and Sikhs engage with them on a political level, they will include all of them under the banner of Islam. And the actions that they commit against one people, they will commit against others as well. They will consider every sect to be a Muslim. Thus, their interests are politically the same. And if Muslims do not understand this point, then others will slowly devour them one by one. And Muslims will come to their senses at a time when it cannot help them anymore. This is why Hazrat Muslim Maud presented this golden rule in front of all the Muslim sects, that in political affairs, Muslims must show complete unity and concord. Because if you politically cut off a sect, then how can you expect them not to turn to other nations? After this, he gave several suggestions regarding the progress, propagation and political strength of Islam, and stated that for the strength and proliferation of Islam, it is necessary that an outreach system is implemented throughout India, and a path to the mutual unity of all these outreach organizations be sought, because the life of Islam is predicated upon tabligh, and it is necessary to create a complete system for this. And now the scope of this work is the entire world. In addition, for advancements in the industrial and educational field, specific departments must be established. Every department should have its own objective, and every year it should be analyzed as to how much progress has been made. This is now the responsibility of established Islamic governments. Furthermore, the immediate establishment of a committee is also necessary, which can examine how Muslims can be freed from the influence of other nations, and to examine which are those core professions which possess very few experts who are Muslims. Then this committee should try to fill this shortage. Similarly, Hazrat Muslim Maud also emphasized the importance of establishing a Muslim bank and said that if a system without interest can be developed, and it certainly can be, then our Jamaat is also ready to be part of it. He also proposed the establishment of a treasury and a Muslim chamber of commerce. Furthermore, except for military court cases, he emphasized the need for all other disputes amongst Muslims to be mutually decided by a local council instead of going to a court where there are non-Muslim governments. He stated that in order to establish peace, it is necessary that there should be no interference in religious affairs. With the utmost patience, allow others to work in accordance with their own beliefs, and for us to work according to our own beliefs. Regarding business, industry, and the trades, as a Muslim Maud observed that commerce is the sector that Muslims have neglected the most, and in terms of business, have been reduced to mere servants of the Hindus. While it was true in that era, it's even more evident in the modern age. The Muslims have become subservient to wealthy and powerful corporations of the world, whether they be Jewish, Christian, or of any other faith. At the time, it was a similar situation. But even in today's age, Muslims are becoming subservient to the world's government and businesses, as I mentioned. Hence, Muslim nations ought to reflect on this. For the Muslims, there is a great need to focus on the advancement in trade, commerce, and innovation. At the end, Hazrat Muslim Maud emphasized the importance of Muslims setting aside their internal conflicts and focusing on working together in mutual harmony by saying, I conclude this address by once again emphasizing, all our efforts shall be made redundant, and all our plans shall prove fruitless if we fail to grasp the fact that despite calling each other disbelievers, in the eyes of the world, we are all Muslims. A loss to one of us is a collective loss for all. Thus, we should leave religious edicts out of the arena of political discussions and affairs, because they are beyond the scope of our activities. In no way does Islam forbid you from working amicably with those whom you deem to be non-Muslims in order to fulfill your political duties. If the Holy Prophet of Islam ﷺ could come to an understanding with the Jews when faced with the opposition from the idolaters, then there is no reason why, for the sake of political well-being, nay, political security of Muslims, those sects who call themselves Muslims cannot work together for this cause. If, at this great hour, we cannot come together as one, it will prove that our disagreements are not for the sake of Islam, but are personal grievances that serve only our egos. May God Almighty save us from such depravity. In Pakistan and some Muslim countries, this is the general situation, especially against Ahmadis, who according to them are disbelievers, notwithstanding the fact that every sect calls each other disbelievers. But this is precisely why such a negative impression of Islam is developing throughout the non-Muslim world, to the detriment of the Muslims. Hence, this is a point that even today the governments of Pakistan and other Muslim nations need to understand. Regarding the situation of India, when Pakistan and India were one country, there was a round-table conference. The question of who would represent the Muslims at this conference arose. The British government appointed a commission to evaluate the prospect of an independent Kashmir, tasked with reporting every 10 years on the extent to which Kashmir's people could be given such powers as allow them to establish their own autonomous state. This commission's first president was a British barrister named Sir John Simon. Nonetheless, this commission continued to deliberate and debate over various issues during this time. And Hazrat Muslim Maud would also guide the Muslims by sharing his detailed thoughts on different occasions. Thus, a round-table conference convened, which is mentioned in our history with reference to Hazrat Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu. The report presented by the commission set up by the British government did not meet the expectations of the people of India, and so they refused to accept it. Against this backdrop, the British government announced a roundtable conference, the details of which stated that the representatives of both Britain and India could gather at one place and deliberate over the political future of India. On this occasion, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu promptly wrote an article to guide Muslims, advising them to set aside their internal divisions and differences and work together in unity for the national interest. Only through this approach would they be able to successfully obtain their rights while confronting opposing nations. They should strive to send representatives to the conference who could truly fulfill their duty of representing the nation. On this occasion, Hazrat Muslim Maud also advised the government to select representatives in consultation with political parties so that people would willingly accept the decisions made at the conference. With regards to safeguarding the rights of Muslims, Hazrat Muslim Maud stated, "In my view, it is time now for the All Muslim Parties Conference to act. Merely publishing the demands of Muslims is not enough. If the participants of the Roundtable Conference disregard these demands, then the decision of all parties conference would hold no value. Therefore, this is the time to alert the government about the negative consequences of wrongfully electing participants and inform the public about its dangers, and to not rest until the decision about Muslim representation is made through Muslim elected representatives and their important political organizations." These suggestions were taken very seriously in many circles given the circumstances at the time. Then, regarding the political conditions of India at the time, he wrote an article proposing some solutions. Shortly after the Simon Commission's report was published, which was mentioned earlier, the British government decided to convene the Roundtable Conference in London to consider various aspects of India's political evolution and propose a future course of action. Since the Simon Commission had not fully considered Muslim rights, Hazrat Muslim Maud was concerned and wanted to ensure that Muslim rights would not be ignored in the future. Therefore, Hazrat Muslim Maud deemed it appropriate to comment on the Simon Commission report at the time, highlighting its deficiencies and presenting such a solution to India's problems that would allow all communities to live peacefully together in harmony in the future. Thus he stated, "I believe that although as a religious person, I may not be as connected to national politics as those who are involved in these matters day and night. But my responsibility for creating peace and harmony is greater. Moreover, I think that being separate from the world of chaos, I may be able to reach the depths of many matters more easily compared to those who are involved on either side of this conflict." Thus, at this time, when people's attention is focused on solving problems of India due to the announcement of the Roundtable Conference, this was a major issue at the time. I consider it appropriate to present my thoughts before the unbiased people of both countries. In his analysis, Hazrat Muslim Maud thoroughly discussed the rights and demands of the Muslims, highlighting the rationale behind them. Along with this, he presented an extremely sensible and satisfactory solution to India's political problems. This comprehensive analysis was immediately sent for publication in the English language, so that the participants in the Roundtable Conference could read and benefit from it. The Muslim representatives especially benefited from it. Consequently, for the first time, they were able to successfully present their unified demands at the conference. It proved beneficial during that period. This had a profound impact on influential people in England, and they were compelled to acknowledge the special status of Muslims in India and recognize the rationale and utility of their demands. This book by Hazrat Muslim Maud became very popular in both India and England and was read with great interest and attention, and many reputable politicians and journalists paid glowing tributes to him. Many incidents are recorded in Tarikh-e-Ahmadiyyat. This analysis, as I mentioned, was very well received in both circles, was read with great attention, and I will present some reviews as examples. Lord Meston, former governor of UP, said, "I am grateful to you for sending me the most interesting work by the Imam of the Ahmadiyya community." He is writing this to the sender. "I have previously read several of his works with interest. I am hopeful that reading this book will be a source of pleasure and benefit for me." Lieutenant Commander Kenworthy, Member of Parliament, said, "I am very grateful that you sent me the book Solution to India's Political Problems. I have read it with great interest." Sir Malcolm Haley, Governor of UP Province and former Governor of Punjab, wrote to the Imam of the London Mosque, "I am very grateful for this book you sent me on behalf of the Imam of the Ahmadiyya community. I am well acquainted with the conditions of the Ahmadiyya community and fully understand and appreciate the role they are playing in solving India's important issues. I am confident this book will be useful for me, and I will read it with great interest." Then Sir Hon Miller said, "I sincerely thank you for sending this small book containing the proposals of the Imam of the Ahmadiyya community for solving India's problems. This is the only detailed critique of the Simon Commission's proposals that has come to my attention. I will not comment on those details where differences of opinion is inevitable, but I commend the sincerity, rationality, and clarity with which His Holiness, the Imam of the Ahmadiyya community, has expressed his community's views. And I am very impressed by His Holiness, Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin's lofty thinking." Then the Honorable Peterson, CISCE, said, "Thank you very much for sending the book Solution to India's Political Problems. I have not had the time to finish it yet, but I do hope to complete it in a few days. From what I have read thus far, it certainly appears to be an interesting and valuable effort to explain the current situation. The Muslim perspective has been presented very clearly. I hope to meet soon." And he continues writing to the sender. Dr. Ziauddin Sahib of Aligarh, he says, "I read the book by His Holiness with great interest. I request you to ensure its wide circulation in Europe. Every member of Parliament should certainly receive a copy, and one copy should be sent to every newspaper editor in England. This book needs more circulation in England than in India. His Holiness has rendered an important service to Islam. These non-Ahmadis are writing that a great service has been rendered for Islam, whereas here, non-Ahmadi sects deem Ahmadis to be non-Muslims." Seth Haji Abdullah Haroon Sahib, MLA Karachi, said, "In my opinion, among all the books written on politics in India, Solution to India's Political Problems is among the best works.
Allama Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal लिखते हैं
Allama Dr. Sir Muhammad
कि
Iqbal
तबसरे के चंद
writes,
मुकामात का मैंने मुतालिया किया है
I have read some of the
नहायत
thoughtful
उम्दा और
analysis.
जामे है
It is excellent and comprehensive.
अखबार इनकलाब लाहौर ने लिखा जनाब
The
मिर्ज़ा साहब ने
Inqilab
इस
newspaper
तबसरे
from
के ज़रिए
Lahore
से
wrote,
मुसलमानों की बहुत बड़ी
with this
खिदमत
thoughtful
अंजाम दी है
analysis, Mirza
ये
Sahib
बड़ी
has
बड़ी
rendered a great
इस्लामी
service to
जमातों का
Muslims.
काम था जो मिर्ज़ा साहब ने
Mirza
अंजाम
Sahib
दिया
has done the work which should have been done by large
अखबार
Islamic
सियासत लाहौर
organizations.
लिखता है कि मजहबी इख्तिलाफात के
The Siyasat
की बात
newspaper from
छोड़कर
Lahore writes,
देखें
if we
तो
put
जनाब
religious
मिर्ज़ा
differences aside
बशीरुद्दीन महमूद
and
अहमद
look at the
साहब ने
work
मैदान
which Hazrat
तस्नीफ
Mirza
और
Bashiruddin
तालीफ में
Sahib has done
जो
in the
काम
field
किया
of
है
writing and
वो
publication,
बलिहाज
in
ज़खावत
terms of
व
volume
वफ़ादार
and benefit,
हर तारीफ
it
का
is
मुस्तहिक
worthy
है
of every
और
praise.
सियासत में अपनी जमातों को आम मुसलमानों के पहलू व
The
पहलू खिलाने
political
में आपने
principles
जिस
which he established in
उसूल
having his community walk
उसूल
side by
अमल की
side
इब्तिदा
with the
करके
general Muslim
इसको अपनी
population
क़यादत में कामयाब
and
बनाया है
finding success in
वो
this
भी हर
endeavor
मुनसिफ
under his
मिजाज
leadership
मुसलमान और हक
cannot
शनास
go
इंसान से
without being lauded
खराज
by every
तहसीन
fair
वसूल
minded
करके रहता
Muslim
है
and pious
आपकी
individual.
सियासी फरासत का एक ज़माना कायल है कहता है कि आपकी सियासी
It
फरासत
goes
का
on.
एक ज़माना
An
कायल है
entire
और
generation can
बहरपुर वोट के
testify to his
खिलाफ
political
मुसलमानों को
insight.
मुल्तवी करने में
He has done commendable
साइमन
work
कमीशन
in
के
assembling
पहलुओं
Muslims
मुसलमानों का नुक्ता
to
नज़र पेश
respond to
करने
the
में
Nehru report,
मसाइल
presenting
हालत
the
और
Islamic
इस्लामी नुक्ता
perspective before
निगाह
the
से
Simon
मुदल्लल
Commission,
बहस करने
having
और
fact based
मुसलमानों के
discourse
हकूक़
from
के
an Islamic
इस्तिदलाल से
perspective on
ममलूक
contemporary issues,
किताबें
and
शाया
publishing
करने
books
की
replete
सूरत
with
में
arguments in
आपने
favor of the
बहुत ही
rights of
काबिल
Muslims.
तारीफ काम किया है ज़ेरे बहस किताब साइमन रिपोर्ट पर आपकी
The book under
तनकीद है
discussion
जो
is his
अंग्रेज़ी
critical
ज़ुबान में
analysis of the
लिखी गई है
Simon report,
जिसके
which
मुताले
has
से
been
आपकी
written in
वुसअत
the
के
English
मालूमात
language.
का अंदाज़ा होता
Upon
है
reading it,
आपका
one is
तर्जुमान
able to
सलीस
ascertain the wide
कायल
breadth
कर
of his
देने वाला
knowledge.
होता है
His style of
आपकी ज़ुबान
expression
बहुत
is easy
चुस्त
to
है
understand, convincing, and his
ये
words
से कुछ
are
तर्जुमे
clear.
फिर
These were some
दुनिया
of the
की मौजूदा
reviews.
बेचैनी का इस्लाम क्या इलाज पेश करता है इस बारे में भी आपने लिखा
Then he also wrote about Islam's solution to the current unrest in the world
आलमगीर अमन के बारे में तकरीरें
and delivered speeches on world
खुलासा
peace.
मैं बयान कर दूं कि मुस्लिम मऊद ने
I will mention
आलमगीर
these in
अमन को
summary.
मद्देनजर रखते हुए ये
With
पुर
world peace in
मुबारक
view,
तकरीर
Hazrat Muslim Maud delivered an
9
enlightening
अक्टूबर
speech
1946 को
on
बोगर
9th
शाम
October
5:30 बजे
1946 at 5:30 p.m. in the evening
आर्ट पार्क रोड दिल्ली के वसी सहन में
in the large
इरशाद
courtyard
फरमाई
of Art Park Road in
इस
Delhi.
तकरीर को सुनने के लिए कई सौ गैर अहमदी और गैर मुस्लिम
Hundreds
मुअज़्ज़िज़ीन
of
तशरीफ लाए
non-Ahmadis and non-Muslim
उन्होंने
dignitaries
नहायत तवज्जो और
were in
सुकून के
attendance to
साथ
hear his speech.
हुजूर की तकरीर को सुना
They listened attentively and calmly
पहली
to His
दफ़ा
Holiness's address.
बरखा
This was published for
15
the first
अप्रैल
time
1961
in
को
Al-Fazl on
में
15th of
शाया हुई थी
April
बहरहाल
1961.
इस तकरीर के बारे में अखबार तेज दिल्ली ने अपने 14 अक्टूबर
The Tej
1946 की शात में
Delhi newspaper wrote the following note about the speech
कि अहमदियों
in
के
its
इमाम
14th October
हज़रत
1946
मिर्ज़ा
edition.
बशीरुद्दीन महमूद अहमद ने
The Ahmadi
तकरीर
leader,
करते हुए
Hazrat Mirza
बताया
Bashiruddin Mahmud
कि
Ahmad,
अमन और शांति का
mentioned in his
मसला इतना ही
speech
पुराना है
that the issue of
जितना
peace
कि
and
खुद इंसान
tranquility is as old
क्योंकि
as human
इंसानी फितरत
civilization
के
itself,
साथ इसका
and
नहायत
it is
गहरा
deeply
ताल्लुक है
connected to human
अगर इसका
nature.
क़याम मतलूब है
If it is to
इसके
be
लिए
established,
जज्बा
then enmity and
दुश्मनी और
hatred
नफरत को
must
ख़त्म
be
करना
eliminated.
पड़ेगा मसला सियासी नहीं है
The matter
बल्कि
is not
अखलाकी है
political,
और अगर हम
but
खुदा की
has to do
खुदाई से
with
बाखबर
morality.
हों
If
और
we
रोटी
remain
तक
cognizant of God's might
प्यार
and
लालच
abandon
वगैरह को
love
छोड़
for
दें
wealth
तो
and
इसके
greed,
बाद हम में नफरत और
then in
लालच की
place of
बजाय
hatred and
ईमानदारी
greed,
और
we can
मोहब्बत के
establish
जज्बात पैदा हो
sentiments of
सकते हैं
brotherhood and love.
मजहबी दुनिया के इख्तिलाफात ख़त्म हो सकते हैं
The disputes
बशर्ते
in the
कि
religious world can be brought to
हम
an end,
एक दूसरे के जज्बात का
so long as
एहतराम करना
we learn to
सीखें
respect the
मजहबी दुनिया के
sentiments of others
इख्तिलाफात ख़त्म हो सकते हैं बशर्ते कि हम एक दूसरे के जज्बात का एहतराम करना सीखें और अपने अंदर कुव्वत बर्दाश्त पैदा करें
and develop
जिस
tolerance
तरह
within
मजहबी मामलात में
ourselves.
तहम्मुल की ज़रूरत है ठीक इसी
Just
तरह
as religious
ज़ाहिरी के
matters
मामलात में
require patience,
इसका होना लाज़मी
it
है
is also necessary for this to exist in worldly matters as well.
मसला ईसाइयों
This
के
was an
साथ
issue during the time of Muslims and
फरमाया कि
Hindus
हमें
and with
कौमियत और
Christians
रंग
as
के
well.
झगड़ों को ख़त्म करके
He said,
आलमगीर
we
बरादरी
must
का जज्बा
end
पैदा
national
करना
and
है
racial disputes and establish a
ये
universal spirit of brotherhood.
था उनकी इस मज़मून का
This was a brief introduction to this book.
फिर एक मज़मून आपने लिखा इसके इतराज़ पर
Then he
हमारा
wrote
फ़र्ज़
a
है कि
book
मज़लूम
responding
कौम
to
की मदद करें
allegations
चाहे वो हमें मारें
saying
या
that we
दुख
must
दें
assist oppressed people even if they
दिल्ली के
beat
अखबार
us
के
or
बयान
cause
में
us
दर्ज
harm.
था दिल्ली के अखबार ने लिखा
This
था
was a response to a statement
कि
made by a
अहमदी
newspaper in
पाकिस्तान की
Delhi.
हिमायत कर रहे हैं
The newspaper wrote
हालांकि
that
इनके
Ahmadis
साथ
support
दूसरे मुसलमानों
Pakistan,
ने अच्छा सलूक नहीं किया
despite other Muslims not having treated them well.
भड़का रहा है अहमदियों को
They were inciting Ahmadis regarding their support for Pakistan, even though Muslims did not treat them well. It wrote, "When Pakistan will be formed, Muslims will treat them the same way that they were treated in Kabul. Then Ahmadis will ask to be made part of India." This was the newspaper's opinion. On 16th of May 1947, Hazrat Muslim Maud gave his opinion on the matter after the Maghrib prayer, saying, "It is our duty to help those people who are oppressed, even if they beat us or cause us harm." He also said, "Even if our enemy is cruel and unjust towards us, we will still act with justice." This address by Hazrat Muslim Maud was also published in book form in Qadian. Even these days, some people raise the question, asking why Hazrat Muslim Maud supported the formation of Pakistan. This address serves as a response. Based on the circumstances at the time, it was necessary to help the Muslims, and the community is always at the forefront of helping the Muslims. Hazrat Muslim Maud did not deny that the community would be oppressed. He said that no matter what happened, at the time, the Muslims required help, and Ahmadis should support them because it is necessary for us to support Muslims. He delivered a lecture on the future of Pakistan, the summary of which is that after the creation of Pakistan, he delivered an enlightening lecture in Lahore, the capital of Punjab, on the topic of the future of Pakistan. It was attended by Lahore's renowned scholars and intellectuals and expressed their appreciation for these lectures. The first 5 lectures were delivered at the Minard Hall in Lahore, and the 6th lecture was delivered in the University of Lahore. It is said regarding the lecture on 7th December 1947 at the Minard Hall in Lahore that Hazrat Muslim Maud radhiyallahu anhu was unable to cover certain aspects of the topic due to the shortage of time. Hence, for the greater benefit, Hazrat Muslim Maud published the topic in Al-Fazl from his memory. Then on 9th December 1947, it was published in the daily Al-Fazl that was printed in Lahore. In this address, Hazrat Muslim Maud provided invaluable principles and gave advice and suggestions about how Pakistan could make progress from the standpoint of vegetation, agriculture, livestock and wealth. This lecture became very popular. He also shared his views on the topic of Islamic traditions or Islamic constitution and regulations. After migrating from Qadian to Lahore, this was the last in a series of lectures about the future of Pakistan. Hazrat Muslim Maud delivered this lecture in University Hall, Lahore, on the topic of Islamic traditions or Islamic constitution and regulations, as mentioned before. This lecture was published as a pamphlet on 18th of February 1948 for the benefit of all. It is currently in volume 19 of Anwar al-Ulum. In this address, while elaborating on Islamic traditions, Hazrat Muslim Maud shed light on what type of constitution or tradition should be established in Pakistan. He said, in the Pakistani constitution, if Muslims, who will be in the majority, will pass a law which says that the laws for Muslims in Pakistan will be made according to the Quran and Sunnah, and it will not be permissible to create laws contrary to that, then although the foundations of the government will not be entirely Islamic, because it cannot be, however, the operation of the government will become Islamic. Its laws relating to Muslims will also become Islamic, and that is what Islam demands. Islam does not say that Hindus, Christians, and Jews must be made to act according to Islam. In fact, this would be in stark contradiction, for Islam gives freedom to every religion and every person. Today, these people say that an Islamic constitution and laws have been established in an Islamic country, whereas practically it was Hazrat Muslim Maud who initiated it and gave advice. Injustices are carried out in the name of Islam. whereas he drew attention towards acting in accordance to the Islamic teachings and creating a constitution in accordance to those teachings, as I mentioned. If Ahmadis were so opposed to Islam, as the clerics of Islam today claim, then what need did Hazrat Muslim Maud have to give this advice and draw attention to this? In any case, these days, so-called religious clerics are trying to hold the country hostage. May Allah the Almighty bring about a right-minded individual who can save the country from their evil ploys and bring the country upon the path of success. Then there is a topic titled, Pakistan is a brick from the edifice of Islam that we will establish in the world. This was a lecture delivered by Hazrat Muslim Maud at the town hall in Quetta. Following the creation of Pakistan, Hazrat Muslim Maud delivered 6 lectures in Lahore on the topic of the future of Pakistan, as mentioned earlier. A short while after this, he toured various central towns of West Pakistan and addressed thousands of citizens of Pakistan on the topic of how to strengthen Pakistan, explaining to them through his profound wisdom and constructive viewpoint. In June 1948, Hazrat Muslim Maud travelled to Quetta, where he delivered comprehensive and enlightening public lectures in which he pointed out important matters relating to national interest for the benefit of all the residents of Pakistan. He advised them by outlining in great detail their responsibilities to their country, and through his spirited effort and words filled with love, his boundless power of faith and unwavering commitment breathed a new life and spirit into hundreds and thousands of dejected and sorrowful hearts. This address was delivered by Hazrat Muslim Maud on 4th of July 1948 at the Quetta Town Hall on the topic of Pakistan and its future prospect. This was published in Al-Fazl in March 1952 and had a significant impact on people. Priceless advice was given on the topic of the advancement of Pakistan and its stability. Jamaat Ahmadiyya Sargoda organized a public gathering in Company Bagh on 11th November 1949 on the topic of the advancement of Pakistan and its stability. In those days we could hold gatherings, but now we are prohibited from even holding tarbiyati gatherings. This gathering held a special distinction in that it was the first occasion where Hazrat Muslim Maud gave his invaluable advice and guidance to thousands of Ahmadis and non-Ahmadis of Sargoda and its surroundings, who had gathered to benefit from this occasion. In an enthralling manner, he advised them to abide by the Islamic injunctions and to strive to further strengthen Pakistan. The audience was engrossed in the speech of Hazrat Muslim Maud from the beginning to the end, and they took great interest in it. With regards to being mindful of the safety and protection of Pakistan, Hazrat Muslim Maud advised, "We ourselves were the ones who prayed, 'O God, grant us this country.' Now it is in our hands to ensure its establishment and progress. If we fail to understand our duties, then we will suffer humiliation in this life and the next. Allah the Almighty will say, 'I had bestowed this country to you upon your request, but you allowed it to be destroyed.' This is exactly what the religious clerics are doing today and are causing its destruction. To increase the revenue of Pakistan, Hazrat Muslim Maud advised all factions of society to give tax honestly and encouraged that as many youths as possible should join the army for the protection of Pakistan. In those days, the newspapers were claiming that the government of Pakistan is not doing anything to establish an Islamic government. But we asked for Pakistan in the name of Islam. Hazrat Muslim Maud imparted guidance with great foresight and in the end stated, "Simply raising slogans does not reflect a nation's success. If, at this time, everyone begins to raise slogans for Allah's greatness, or 'Long live Pakistan' and 'Perish India,' this will not cause even a mouse in India to perish. A mere slogan is ineffective. However, if everyone begins to abide by all the things that I have stated, i.e. what was mentioned in his speech, if businessmen pay taxes, if commuters stop evading paying for their train tickets, if the youth focus their attention on seeking an education instead of wasting their time in vain pursuits, if strong youth join the army, if officials abstain from taking bribes and conduct all their work with integrity and honest efforts, then Pakistan will continue to strengthen in practical terms. However, today we see that the conditions have deteriorated even further. He further states, even if you never raise the slogan, "Long live Pakistan," Pakistan will still flourish. Whether one raises this slogan or not, Pakistan will demonstrate its success. There are also many topics pertaining to warfare. As an example, I've chosen in light of the situation of Russia and the ongoing conflict. There is an analysis of the incident when USSR entered Poland during the Second World War. When USSR entered Poland during the Second World War, Hazrat Muslim Maud composed an article which was subsequently published in the Daily Al-Fazl on 21st of September 1939. In this article, Hazrat Muslim Maud meticulously examined the reasons behind USSR's entry into Poland and the objectives it sought to achieve. He observed, USSR's intention was to divide Poland, and their aims do not seem to be noble. It has formed an alliance with Germany and is determined to send its forces into Poland in order to ease Germany's occupation of Poland and bring about an end to the Polish government without the need for bloodshed. Should this strategy fail, the alliance would pave the way for Germany to launch an attack on Poland. If other nations refrain from intervening, then all well and good. Otherwise, Germany would crush Poland, and both countries would then carve up the country between them. Moreover, in this article, Hazrat Muslim Maud offered profound insight on the future course of events following the war, imparting his sagacious and wise guidance to the Allied nations. Thus, Poland was ultimately spared. As I mentioned already, Hazrat Muslim Maud's insight into international affairs was profound, and he has written about various other related topics. As I have pointed out, he has written religious literature, such as his commentaries, in an extraordinarily vast number. His Friday sermons, speeches delivered at various gatherings of the Jamaat, and addresses on various occasions are a treasure of knowledge and wisdom. The previous version of Tafsir Kabir, which originally spanned 10 volumes, has now been expanded with additional notes of Hazrat Muslim Maud and published in 15 volumes, with subjects being explained in even greater detail. Furthermore, the commentary on additional chapters based on further notes have been obtained, and they are under review. Once these are published, it is likely that it may extend to 30 volumes, because it spans 30,000 pages. Thus, the promise made by Allah the Almighty in the prophecy to the promised Messiah Islam has been fulfilled in every aspect through Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad radiyallahu anhu. I've shared only a few examples with you. We should strive to read this rich repository of knowledge and wisdom. Many aspects of it are highly relevant to the circumstances of today, and we can derive immense benefit from it. May Allah the Almighty grant us the ability to do so.
Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر.